I've got 100 kilos of potatoes here, fresh from the field, and to keep the numbers clean, let's say they're 99% water. I leave them outside overnight. A little water evaporates, nothing dramatic, and by morning they're down to 98% water, one single percentage point less. So here's my bet with you. How much do they weigh now? And I can almost hear you running the numbers. 99% was water. We lost about a point of it, so 99 kilos, maybe 98, a kilo or two, gone. They weigh 50 kilos, half the potato, gone into the night air, over one percentage point. I know exactly how that sounds. Stay with me, and I'll show you it's true. And if a voice in your head is going, hang on, that's a numbers trick, there's a lie buried in the setup somewhere, good. That is exactly where I want you. Because nobody is lying here. No sneaky rounding, no hidden fine print, no second sack of potatoes I'm not telling you about. Just two honest percentages, 99 and 98, and still everything in you refuses to accept the answer. This is the potato paradox, and over the next few minutes your whole gut feeling for percentages is quietly going to flip inside out. So let's start somewhere strange, by staring at the one thing everybody ignores. The whole illusion lives in what we look at. We hear 99% water, and our eyes go straight to the water. Of course they do, it's almost the entire thing. So flip it around. 99% water means 1% is not water. Starch, fiber, cell walls, the solid stuff, the part that's actually potato. And 1% of 100 kilos is exactly 1 kilo. Picture that. One single kilo of real potato drowning in 99 kilos of water. Hold on to this image, I'll draw it as a bar. Up top, the water, blue and enormous. Down at the very bottom, a thin gold block, the dry mass, 1 kilo. Because whatever happens tonight happens only to the blue. That little gold block is the hero of this whole story. Overnight, water evaporates, only water. The gold block doesn't budge, starch and fiber don't just float off into the dark. That 1 kilo of dry mass stays 1 kilo, no matter how long you wait. And that stubbornness is the hinge the whole paradox turns on. So now the one translation that cracks it open. In the morning, the potatoes are 98% water. Fine, then what is all the rest? 2%. All of a sudden, that gold block isn't 1% of the whole anymore. It's 2. And watch closely, because here's the entire magic trick in a single sentence. The block itself did not change at all. It's still 1 kilo, only its share of the whole doubled. And a block that stays exactly the same size but suddenly counts for double the share, there is only one way that can possibly happen. The whole thing has to shrink to half. Do it with me. 1 kilo now has to be 2% of the total. 1 divided by 2/100, that's 50. 50 kilos. The gold block sits exactly where it always was, and the blue water bar above it collapses to half its height. Of 99 kilos of water, only 49 are left, so 50 whole kilos of water drifted off as vapor overnight. That is your missing half a potato. No trick, no lie, no sleight of hand, just 1 kilo that flatly refused to change. So why does this fool almost everyone, every single time? Here's the quietly unsettling part. 99% water and 1% solid are the exact same sentence. One number is just 100 minus the other. They carry identical information. But listen to how differently they land. 99% water makes you shrug, basically a puddle. Who cares about the rest? 1% solid makes you lean in, that tiny, precise, important sounding sliver. Same potato, two completely different feelings. Your brain files one and the same fact in two different drawers, one labeled barely worth noticing, the other pay attention. And your gut always grabs the big, comfortable number and forgets the small, decisive one. The whole paradox is just that blind spot, dressed up in vegetables. It never touched the water that mattered, it moved the solid you weren't watching. And once you're watching the solid, the real lesson snaps into focus. What your ear heard as 1 percentage point less water was, underneath, something else entirely. The dry share went from 1% to 2. That is not a small nudge. That is a doubling, a jump of 100%, wearing the costume of a measly 1 out of 100. Your gut saw the 1 and never noticed the 100 standing right behind it. And here's the thing to sit with. This answer is completely true, fully provable, and your gut still won't sign off on it. A result that's stubborn and that correct usually has a name. Hold that thought, we'll come back for it. Because this paradox comes with a lever, and it gets more violent the closer you push toward 100%. Same 100 kilos, but this time really dry them out, from 99 down to 90% water. Sounds like a lot of work, but it's still only 9 percentage points. The result, 10 kilos. Out of 100 kilos of potatoes, 10 survive. 9/10 of the pile gone to vapor. Because that 1 kilo of dry mass now has to be 10% instead of 1, 10 times the share, 1/10 of the weight. This close to the edge, every percentage point swings like a sledgehammer. This is exactly why a whole tray of grapes shrivels into a small fistful of raisins. You are not drying off a bit of water, you are carrying away almost all of the weight. And now, the part that is actually about you. Quick moment of honesty. Real potatoes are never 99% water. Raw, skin on, they sit around 80%. That's straight out of the US Department of Agriculture's own nutrition tables. The writer who logged this riddle in his math encyclopedia, David Darling, saw that coming and dryly called ours purely mathematical potatoes. But here's the thing, the trick does not disappear when the potato turns real. It just gets quieter. The lever is still there, only shorter. Push a genuine 80% potato down to 60% water, and it still loses half its weight. You just need a bigger drop to get there. And there is one kind of percentage you run into every single week where it swings at full force. Not vegetables, prices. Watch this. A jacket costs €100. The shop first marks it up 10%. That's 110. Weeks later, the sign appears. 10% off, so we're back to 100, right? No, 10% of 110 is €11. You land at 99. The same 10% up and then down, and €1 just quietly evaporated. Or the bait sign, 30% off, and another 20 at the register. Feels like 50. It isn't. 70% is left, then 80% of that, 56 cents on the euro. Your discount is 44%, not 50. And the cruelest one, the one that empties real accounts, an investment drops 50%. To climb back to even you don't need 50%, you need to double what's left, 100%, just to undo one half. Every time, the same potato, a different coat. And here is the one idea that ties the whole thing in a bow. Why is none of that gut arithmetic right? Because underneath every percentage, the whole it is measured against keeps quietly moving. The 10% markup was figured from 100, the 10% discount from 110. Same label on the sticker, two different worlds underneath, and that is precisely the potato. The 99% water was 99 kilos out of 100. The 98% was 49 kilos out of 50. You cannot compare two percentages when the hole beneath them has quietly turned into a different hole. That single sentence is the paradox, potatoes, jackets and all. So, that name I told you to hold on to. The philosopher Willard Van Orman Quine sorted paradoxes into kinds, and he had a word for exactly this one. He called it a veridical paradox, a result that is simply provably true, however absurd it looks on the way in. Not a trick, not a fallacy, not a broken argument, just your intuition, arriving a few seconds late. Quine kept a separate bin for the fakes, the paradoxes that only look true and quietly hide a real mistake. Ours is not one of those. Here the math is spotless. The only thing that's wrong is your gut. The riddle still sits in David Darling's math encyclopedia from 2004. And on American radio, on the show Car Talk, listeners fought over it as the puzzler of the week until the phone lines were glowing. 1 kilo of potato, and a whole country reaching for a calculator at once. In the end, it comes down to one thought. Percentages never lie to you, but they also never tell you what they are a percentage of, and that number underneath, the one that's never printed on the sign, is the one that quietly decides everything. This whole time it was that single gold block, sitting there, never moving a millimeter. It never changed, only the world around it did. If stories like this one grab you, there are more. Next time, a university that favors women in almost every single department and still, on paper, appears to discriminate against them. Both facts true, same set of data, percentages again, never telling you what they're of.